met Benito Vergotine.
Smile 90.4 FM.
Joining us this evening as we uncover how mainstream platforms have become enablers of child exploitation is senior researcher at the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change, Janse. Carl, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Benito, and thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. I see the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change has released a new report mapping child predation online. How widespread is the availability of child sexual abuse material online?
It is unfortunately too widespread and too common, as well as too easy to obtain across all prominent social media platforms. It is essentially just a click away or a search away, Benito.
In the research for the latest reports and in tracking the narratives and the conversations, what keywords or patterns stood out as indicators of persons, maybe networks involved in the exploitation, in the sexual exploitation of children?
I think I'd like to go back to our first report on this topic. It was released about 3 months ago. In that report, which focused on the narratives around child predation, what we found was these accounts that are posting child sexual abuse content or fantasy child sexual abuse content. And we noted in that report, as well as in our data, that these accounts follow a periodic posting pattern, which means they'll post on one day and they'll go quiet for a week or 2 week period, sometimes even a month, and they'll post again. And they wouldn't just post one image or one video, they'll post about 10 per day. And that led us to that preliminary finding that they have to be collecting these posts somewhere, or these posts have to be images and videos. They need to be coming from a different platform. And that's what we sought to investigate with this report in particular, is to look at those linkages and those patterns of posting. And it's unfortunately exactly what we found. We found that there's cross-platform linking between let's call them the malicious bad actors, the perpetrators of child sexual abuse material, or CSAM for short.
And which hashtags are linking these conversations or highlighting it?
The hashtags utilized generally refer to the date of birth, I want to call it, or the year rather. So it will be things that say like 2K, which means 2000, or just AMA 2000, which obviously, if you look at face value, that is someone that's now 24, 25 years old.
Yes.
However, on social media, it does not reflect that age. When individuals refer to 2Ks or AMA 2Ks, they are actually referring to basically 18-year-olds and younger, the younger generation, essentially.
But this, I would imagine, this particular lexicon would be understood by those interacting on these platforms, or would they?
100%. They are completely understood, and the pattern around these hashtags is for the proliferation of CSAM or fantasy CSAM content. It is overwhelmingly the majority of content you find around these particular hashtags. Especially in respect of media. Of course, there are content that is not CSAM, where it's just casual referring to, the young generation of today, they're being silly. But when used, particularly I'd say on X, it generally refers to younger female girls.
Speaking about X, the report also notes that X's AI tool Grok actually recommended explicit CSAM accounts to users. If that is accurate, it's incredibly alarming.
Yes, and this was something that the researchers stumbled upon. It was found in our database, and with this report, we weren't looking at individual posts. We as we would usually, where we go into a big post and then we drill down and see the comments or the responses to a particular post. However, on this particular post, the researchers went and they saw, someone asked X's AI bot Grok, can you recommend me similar accounts to the post? And it was in reference to a CSAM post. And Grok proceeded to provide that. On subsequent evaluation, that was the only iteration we found of that. And I cannot confirm whether it was corrected. Hopefully it has been corrected at time of publishing. However, we also found that individuals actually went as far as to try and uncover who the individuals in that post are. So they would ask Grok, can you identify this particular individual? And this is across explicit posts, whether that be CSAM or not.
Research at the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change, Carl Janse, joining us this evening. The CABC has released a new report, which Carl is highlighting for us some of the important findings coming out of mapping child predation online. You're welcome to join us. Share your thoughts. 0829 904 904. Carl, what kind of cross-platform collaboration did the research uncover? I'm just thinking around networks exploiting children. How do they coordinate across the various social platforms?
Well, this was quite interesting to find, actually. So it follows this tiered list where you start at an open platform like X, where it's essentially available to everyone. And that you would term, in inverted commas, the samples. These individuals, they would then either post their Telegram accounts or their WhatsApp accounts. And when you click on that link, it will take you to their Telegram group. Again, the Telegram group would generally be open, and there is some harmful content, but again, it's the sampling. Within these Telegram groups, however, you find posts of, we call them menus, where these actors would post that if you pay, for example, 200 Rand, you will have access to 4 groups which contains what they would call child pornography or teens, or sometimes incest as well, and all these sorts of harmful content, and of course abuse of content. So once you pay that amount, you then get added to this private group, and from there, it's essentially a very closed group. Everything is very monitored. You've paid your fee, you're in there. But in tandem with that also, they'll also direct individuals to their WhatsApp groups. So they'll post the same thing. Here's the menu, pay us X amount, and we'll add you to a dedicated WhatsApp group that focuses on this type of content that you are seeking. And the purpose behind this is, of course, once you go into the smaller groups, it's more secure. Not everyone has access. You can't report it or the likes. So that's generally the flow. So it goes from very open to a very closed group.
Telegram was described as a digital marketplace for abuse content, complete with menus and price lists. It sounds as if this has really become quite not only commercialized, but fairly sophisticated.
100%, Benito. It really is a sophisticated network. You know, we note in this report that if you report one account or one group, then more than likely a week later, another group that's going to replace that group with the exact same actors, with the exact same child sexual abuse materials, costs, pricing. The individuals just essentially recreate those accounts, and and you know, what we don't have insight into is those closed off groups. It's as I noted, the public groups that are reported and are taken off the site. We don't know how much of those closed off groups are still active on Telegram, or still active on WhatsApp, in fact.
Senior researcher at the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change, as we shift the spotlight on their latest report, Mapping Child Predation Online, helping us understand it is Carl Janse. You're welcome to share your thoughts on 0829 904 904. The report also advocates for safety by design principles. What are these, and how can they help children?
Essentially, what we would like to see platforms, we've now spoken about AI, the X's AI system, which is called Grok, that is able to provide individuals requesting with the links. can Grok not be used to moderate this content and remove it before it even gets posted, so that we don't get to the part where civil society has to come and report it, or human moderators have to report it? What we'd like to see is platforms take an active and a proactive step in preventing this content from being posted in the first place. One of my more radical notions is that there's no place for explicit content on social media at all, precisely because it is open to everyone, child or grown up. So what I'd like to see is no explicit content on a public social media site or on a social media site, point.
Can law enforcement and online safety agencies, do you think, be better equipped to detect and respond to these developments online? Or is it always a case of being reactive?
That is what we are seeing now. I think we are seeing governments take a more proactive step. If we refer to Australia, that essentially said that no child under the age of 16 can join social media. And they've placed the onus on the social media platform to take reasonable steps to verify the identity. And there's huge fines associated with the breach thereof. And then just out of interest's sake, Benito, what I also did was I used my VPN, and I put myself in the UK, and this is anecdotal. I cannot confirm it because I'm not in the UK. But when I put my VPN in the UK and I searched some of these harmful keywords that one would usually find explicit content around, none of it was reflecting on X in the UK. And I mean, the GDPR is a very strong regulation that protects information, that protects privacy. So I do think there is a space for government, both from a regulation perspective as well as a law enforcement perspective. What we are having in developing countries is our regulations, our law enforcement is not as matured as developed countries. At the same time, we need social media platforms to work with governments in developing countries because they don't have the platforms. In South Africa only, we've got 11 official languages. And they just cannot moderate for all of that unless you work with the individuals in this country.
In that regard, do you think that there are technologies or developments, you mentioned Grok as an example, that could help curb online child predation?
Definitely. What we've seen is particularly with AI is that it has immense potential based on what it is trained on. For example, I'm very fluent in both English and Afrikaans. Most of our LLMs, our large language models, your Groks, your ChatGPTs and the like, you can converse quite fluently with them in multiple different languages. So that is an avenue that could be exploited in order to moderate content across different languages.
Are those parts of the report's recommendations? If so, what other recommendations do you have, particularly for parents who may be pulling their hair out with frustration as to how to actively protect their child's online interactions?
So that particular one is not explicitly set out, but that is what we mean when we say we would like that shift from reactive to proactive. In terms of parents, it's a standard. Unfortunately, it is one of those tough questions, but we need the parental safeguards both on cellular phones. Only provide your child with a phone when they're of that age where they can understand the implications of what they are doing online, when you can have that sit down with them, tell them the internet is a great place to find information. It's a great place to expose yourself to a lot of different information and data points in order to grow. And we can't shy away from the fact you need to be tech savvy in this day and age. However, those parental controls are very important on children's phone, and ensuring that they only get to that point. It's a circumscribed environment. It's called a circumscribed environment. They only have access to that which they need that which will help him and assist him grow educationally as well as professional development.
Mapping Child Predation Online, available on the CABC's website?
That's correct. It's on the cabc.org.za.
Researcher at the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change, Kyle Janse. As always, appreciate your time and insights. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, as always, for having me, Benito.
Always with you.
Feel like home. At home or at work.
Streaming live.
You're the only